What is the funniest story you have ever read on Reddit? Tifu by throwing my steak out a window. Last night, my wife's boss from her brand new job invited us over for dinner. On the drive over, my wife reiterated many times to me just how important it was to make a good impression. I scoffed and arrogantly informed my silly wife that I always make good impressions. My wife's boss is a single lady in her 50s, so it was just the three of us. We chit-chatted over drinks and salads and seemed to really be hitting it off. She laughed at my well-timed, perfectly appropriate jokes, and my wife seemed pleased. Soon she brought out the main course, a nice big juicy steak for each of us. As I began to cut into my steak, I was discouraged to discover how undercooked this steak was. Now, I've had my fair share of rare steak. I prefer medium, but I can handle rare. This was several minutes on a hot grill short of rare. I probably could have resuscitated the cow had I tried. Instead, I sat there fidgeting with my knife and fork, worrying about how I was going to get away with not eating this steak. Claim veganism? No. I'd already feigned great enthusiasm upon seeing the steak. Just then, our hostess excused herself to the kitchen to take care of some dessert preparations as I looked across the fancy dining room table at the open window of this third-story apartment. A cartoon light bulb appeared over my head. I knew I had to be decisive, realizing that she could return at any moment. I committed. I grabbed the steak with my hand, gently shook off the juice, and executed a perfect throw right through the center of the open window. Here's the big-time view. The window wasn't open. It was the cleanest fricking window you've ever seen in your life. That is, until my mostly raw slab of steak slammed up against it and slowly slid down, leaving a trail of bloody juice in its wake. My wife, whose steak was a nice medium rare and was unaware of my predicament, turned, jaw dropped, and stared at me like I was an alien from another planet. This look then slowly morphed into more of a "there is no place on this planet you can ever hide from me" expression of demonic anger. My wife's boss heard the thud of the steak on window impact and came quickly. She took in the scene, the steak sitting on the windowsill, the blood trail, my empty plate, and then gave me an inquisitive, puzzled look. I just didn't know what to say. It felt like a minute of silence, but was probably 3 or 4 seconds. Finally, the best I could manage was I'm so sorry, I am such a klutz. I don't know. I was just cutting it. And it slipped. Just ask my wife. I really am a klutz. Right, honey? No help coming from that direction. I will clean this up. I can't believe this. I am so sorry, etc., etc. Both women continued to stare at me like I had escaped from the loony bin. As I smeared the blood around the window with my cloth napkin, dusted off the steak, and continued to mutter my incoherent explanation. I knew no one was buying the story. I knew what I had to do. I sheepishly returned to my seat and proceeded to eat every bite of that disgusting, cold, chewy, bloody, raw steak. I remained pretty quiet the rest of the evening. My wife's only 2 words to me since the incident are "I'm fine." TLDR tried to sneakily throw my undercooked steak through an open window, only to find out it wasn't open. Edit. Thanks, kind Redditors. Update. Just got the first post. I'm fine communication from my wife via text. Who is at work? Good news. Boss's name, and I just had a good laugh over how much of a fucking idiot you are. I hope you know you will never live this down. Love you, you moron. My friend was sleeping over at my house. My parents and brother were all sleeping upstairs while we were downstairs watching TV, playing video games and shit. At around 1 a.m., he asks if this girl can come over. He really wants to get with this girl, and I don't want to turn him down, so I reluctantly agree on the condition that she's quiet. The 3 of us are hanging out, and I make some excuse to leave the room so my friend can have some alone time with this girl. I'm upstairs in my room when I start hearing loud moans. This is bad news for me, but great news for my friend. He's losing his virginity to a girl he really likes. I hear stirring in the next room, and I know that their bout of loud lovemaking has woken my parents. The last thing I want is for my confused father to walk in on my friend fucking this girl in my basement. What do? I go to Pornhub, click on the first video I see, crank that shit to 100 on my speakers, and let it play for the 3 minutes that my buddy ended up lasting. My dad ended up coming into my room, discovering the source of the noise. I even threw in some fapping motion under the covers and awkwardly leaving. My buddy ended up having the best fucking time ever. Bro, but Jesus, there were some awkward glances exchanged between my parents. And the next morning, I was at an acquaintance's birthday party. Was a pretty big gathering. Everyone was drinking heavily, and it was a grand old time. The acquaintance's house was rather large, so naturally, as the evening progressed, groups of friends migrated around from room to room, colonizing and recolonizing chairs, couches, or just standing. I eventually found myself in the company of several people who wanted to go streaking. I'd never gone streaking before. There were several rather attractive ladies going, and I was invited as well, so I figured, what hell? Worst thing that happens is I see boobs. Oh, how wrong I was. We go to a park, actually, a field that was part of a nearby elementary school. But whatever. And everyone begins stripping, running around, etc. Then, as I finish disrobing, one of the girls just grabs my clothes and runs off. I didn't think much of it at the time. She was no stranger, and I was drunk and didn't really give a crap anyway, and go off running with the others. As I return, I notice the girl that ran off with my clothes is now clothed and laying down with a couple of friends comforting her. I bound up in the cock-flappity manner that naked guys tend to bound in, asking what's wrong and where my clothes are. It turns out she was epileptic and just had a seizure. She had no memory of even stealing my clothes, nonetheless where they were hidden. Fuck. At this point, I'm suddenly aware of being in an elementary school field in a densely populated area. Night or not, naked. Oh, and it was also a full moon. I run off searching for my clothes, and after what was probably 30 minutes, with everyone looking on at the pasty white dude glowing in the moonlight, I find them, hidden directly under a street light. I dress quickly. But all I can say? Pasty white guys at night under a full moon can maintain no dignity. I was like a glowing beacon of nakedness and dick kinetics. Edit, the girl who had the seizure was fine, and thankfully recalled that she was going streaking at least, and was able to rejoin in the partying shortly after. TLDR, I went streaking. A girl stole my clothes and hid them, then had a seizure and forgot where she hid them. Then I stayed naked for a while. A few summers ago, I met a gal that I had chatted with online a few times, and we decided to go up into the hills for a swim at a nice creek. We get there, it's a beautiful day, and the water is nice, so I decide to go change into my swim trunks. So I go up into the bushes to change. I slipped my pants off over my shoes, and then pulled my shirt off. I'm standing there naked except for shoes. Then I toss my shirt on the ground and get ready to put on my trunks. Turns out I threw my shirt onto a wasp nest, and they were none too pleased about it. I started getting lit up by the wasps and took off toward the water, helicoptering down the hill toward the girl I just met, yelling, "Ah, wasps!" She thought it was pretty funny. I thought standing naked over a nest of angry wasps was the stuff of nightmares. I did get laid later on, though, so I guess that made up for it.